Hey everyone, I'm Myklaus, and today we're going to take a look at the second remake in the Secret of Mana series, Trials of Mana for PlayStation 4. Much like Secret of Mana, we start out with a history lesson about the world being in peril. The Mana Goddess herself stepped in and put a stop to it this time, but now a new threat looms on the horizon. But enough of that stuff, let's move on to character selection. Here, you get to choose 3 characters out of the 6 who will be sharing this adventure with you. A quick bio, some stat breakdowns, and a look at the character model leaves you in a pretty good spot to make this choice, even though you really have no idea how it's going to affect your game. This was my second run through, so I decided to start with Duran as my main, and we run straight into... Wow. This is just a major change. Here we see well thought out 3D models that suit the characters, but they still keep the base 2D sprites in mind. We've got proper expressions running across their faces, mouth movement that matches in with the voiceovers, and the voiceovers themselves are amazing. Let's stop for a listen.
Chad belongs to Ferolia.
No one believes me, but I saw it. A strange light was floating over the lake.
Silence you! You are all enemies of the kingdom.
The environments look great in 3D as well. Still looking vibrant and keeping to the original game's aesthetic, everything visually just looks amazing and feels right for this world. The music has come together well too, suited to each environment and situation you pass through. It flows on well and it keeps you in the moment as the story pushes onwards. Speaking of the story, you've now got 6 to experience. Hang on though, we only picked 3 characters. But that's okay, Square Enix have thought of this. When you meet up with your companions, you'll have the option to play through their opening sequence, or just watch a quick cinematic as they explain how they started their journey. What about the other 3? Well, they're not just sitting around doing nothing because you didn't select them, they've got more self-esteem than that. They're still out in the world, working through their own story, and you'll come across them as you explore and even be able to talk to them and see parts of their story. But if you want the full experience, you'll have to play the game at least once more. But that's okay, because this is a game that rewards exploration. There are treasures hidden all over the place that encourage you to check each nook and cranny, and they've utilised the environmental design to hide them well, just out of view, unless you actually go looking. And here we have another incentive to explore. This guy is called Lil Cactus, and he's playing an epic game of hide and seek throughout the world. Every 5 times you find him, he'll unlock a new buff for you, such as a chance at increased experience after battle. They may not seem like much, but they very quickly add up and really help out throughout the gameplay. And look at this guy. After a while, you'll just start spotting him and have to go see him. You're also encouraged to speak to all of the people you come across, as any one of them may be holding a new ability that will help you on your journey, giving you a reason to actually stop and listen to what they have to say. The combat system is another area that has had so much effort put into it. Easy to get into, highly mobile, and with some nice intricacies with timing combos to give different attack patterns. It's good for both novices and those who take the time to master it. When you see enemies out in the wild, you'll notice the little red rings appear that let you know they're about to use a stronger attack, giving you a few moments to either dodge out of the way or double down and strike before they can. And then we come to your teammates, who are surprisingly helpful. The AI system is easy to configure and lets you put them to some proper use in helping you conquer the challenges ahead. You can even trust them to take on their own enemies and manage their own spell and item usage, though you can place limits to ensure they don't burn through too much if you want to switch between characters mid-combat. We've also got a class system that, once you reach the appropriate level or have the appropriate item, lets you unlock new abilities, strengthen your characters, and get you some new looking costumes. Though if you don't like the current class costume, they've been nice enough to include an option that lets you switch your clothes back and forth. Now, I've only touched on maybe a third of the game in this review, as I don't want to spoil too much, and there is just so much to enjoy here. And I think that was part of my issue during my Secret of Mana review, which you can check out here. I played Trials of Mana first, and I saw just how amazing it was. Visually impressive, true to its art style, a fantastic musical score, high-quality voice acting and animations with a rich and involved story. Every system and building block that makes up this game has had serious thought and quality control put into it. Everything that the Secret of Mana remake lacked. And proof that if Square Enix had put this same level of effort into it, it could have been just as amazing an entry in the franchise. Especially when you consider that the original games were only released 2 years apart, and they were really quite similar as their game designs go. Trials of Mana, known as Seeker Densetsu 3 back then, and was only released outside Japan for the first time last year, only had a small improvement on Secret of Mana back in the 1990s. At least in my opinion. With those final thoughts in mind, I'd recommend Trials of Mana to everyone, especially those who are a fan of RPGs. This is now one of my absolute favourite games of all time, and I'll happily be playing it through a few times over, as it finishes up with 5 mysterious dancing sisters out of 5. There were maybe a few niggling issues I found in the game, but everything positive about Trials of Mana simply outshined, outdid, and outmatched any minor problems I could possibly find. Well, that's it from me. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment on which 2 partners from any video game you take on an adventure, and I'll see you all in-game.